everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today, we're going to be talking about building software without knowing how to code with my guest, Oliver Noy. Oliver, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So to give you guys a little background, those of you listening and watching, Oliver and I met in Hoi An a few months ago, and he gave a presentation there about no code. And I was so impressed that I thought, Oliver, you have to come onto the show. So I'm so glad that you were able to join us.
Perfect. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, let's get started by learning a bit about you. So can you tell us how you first started your digital nomad journey?
I have to think where to start because maybe it started kind of 10 years ago, because that was when I moved to Myanmar. I was living there for 3 years. That was the first time I got out really out of Germany, where I'm from. And I think it's kind of like a 0 to 1 thing, which afterwards it's just so easy to move around, because if you experience living in a different country, then after that is quite easy to just pick another one and just try that out as well. Yeah, so after living in Myanmar for 3 years, which I really enjoyed, and of course I also explored especially a lot of Southeast Asia, I moved back to Germany, but I always had the plan of coming back or managing somehow to maybe spend half of my year in Germany or Europe, and then half of the year in the winter, of course, in Southeast Asia maybe, or in Myanmar specifically. So that was always the plan. But then, there was COVID happening. Then, those of you who know about it, in Myanmar, there's war happening, but it's more like military versus the population. So I can't really go back there, or I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And then I think I just recalibrated my idea of how I want to spend my life, or where I want to spend my life. And I just thought, why not just trying to explore different places? And I'm still in the phase of, I can't really imagine spending half a year somewhere or like a year somewhere, but I'm still just exploring what is my kind of place, because I think it's very, I always had this idea that there's, 220 countries and territories, I think, and you were born in one of them, and everyone around you is very different, and you're different, and the chances that this is exactly the one out of 220 countries that is exactly your place and where you should be is doesn't make so much sense to me. So I think everyone should find out their place and the kind of people they like to hang out with, and that's what I'm doing at the moment for like full time now for half a year, because I was remote already for 5 years actually, because I'm since that time I'm a freelancer. I'm doing product management consulting, and that was always my plan, to become location independent, to become, of course, financially independent as well, and to be able to decide what I do with my time when I do things. So basically, it was maybe like working on it for 5 years, and then for half a year now, I'm actually doing it, and I'm fully nomadic, basically.
Congratulations. As you said, it's almost been a 10-year journey. And I really want to ask about Myanmar, because it is such an unusual country. For now, of course, nomads, we do not recommend you visit at all. I don't think you can. But what drew you to Myanmar in the first place? How did you get there that very first time?
That was very random, actually, because back when I was studying in Frankfurt in Germany, I was in this student organization called ISAC, and they basically had offices or like representations at different universities in, I think, 120 countries. So almost all countries except, of course, like North Korea and kind of those. And I really enjoyed it, but I did like a 6 weeks volunteering program with ISAC in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. And basically the principle is all about intercultural competencies and exchange and getting to know other cultures and countries. And I liked it the way they did things there, what they did there, it was more focused on social projects. I liked that more. Then when I came back, actually that was my last semester break before I finished my bachelor. I just asked, is there any country in Southeast Asia where they don't have this organization yet? And I think there was Laos, which already started, like there was a team already starting that. And then there was only Myanmar left. And then there was someone from Austria as well. He also wanted to do the same. So we got together. And then I went there for 2 months during my semester breaks because I thought, okay, I go there 2 months, I help them set it up, and then I go back to, I don't know, planning my entry in the corporate world, getting a corporate job in, I don't know, banking or investment, because that's what I was studying. And after, I think 1 month in, I just loved it so much. And I just felt like this is exactly the place I have to be with, what I can do there, the kind of impact I could have, the people around me that were just amazingly friendly and open and just good people. And then I decided, so I had to go back to Germany just to write my bachelor thesis for like 3 months. I handed in, and then I think 2 days later, actually, I dissolved my flat, put everything to my parents, and then I moved to Myanmar for. Then I stayed there for like another 2.5 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
That's
it.
great.
It was very random. It was just basically my love for Southeast Asia in general, and then I was always drawn to places that are not the typical places people would go to spend their holidays. So yeah, that was perfect for me. That was very, I know the names of the cities had like a very like mystical touch for me, and I just knew it from literature. So that was, yeah, very exciting for me to be there. And then of course, after 2.5 years, it becomes normal and it's just your home. And I still kind of consider it my second home, even though I can't be there at the moment. But we'll be back there whenever situation gets better, for sure.
I really hope it does. And thank you for sharing that. If somebody's listening and if they're younger and they're involved in the ASIC program, I like what you did where you asked what program, which country doesn't have a program yet, and you wanted to be a pioneer. So that's great. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know, I guess you were feeling maybe to jump into no code because I know this is like what our main
Absolutely.
what we're gonna be covering is like, I know you told me when I met you that you didn't learn how to code, but you wanted to build things. And this is kind of what no code is about. So can you explain what it is and how you first got into it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm more or less 8 years now in product management. But I was always just the guy like doing consulting. So I was always just the guy talking about, how to best do things and, about the process and ideas and these kind of things. But I never really knew how it's built. I was participating in so many software projects basically, but yeah, at one point I just said I want to build something myself now because I'm telling people how to do it for many years, and now I should be able to do it myself. So I think the first time I built a software product, was with some friends during the first COVID lockdown in Germany. But that was a software based on code because we had two of my friends were developers, so they were doing that. But that was like my entry into trying to build software myself. And then after a while, I just stumbled over these tools, no code tools. Maybe that was, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And that was amazing for me because I was like building software. I'm useless. I'm not a developer. I don't know how to do things. I did my, I don't know, trying to get into JavaScript and some coding languages, doing some courses, but it was always this feeling of, okay, I have to commit to this for 3 years, otherwise I won't be able to do anything with it. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Within 2 or 3 days, I can copy. Like the first thing I was building was like a Tinder clone, and I tried to do it in a way that like networking for events, like if you're in a conference, like matching with other participants based on interests, what you want to get from the conference. And I was building that with Glide because it's just pretty easy. yeah, and then from there, I wanted to learn more. Was super hyped about being able to create software, even though I'm not a developer and I don't really understand all the things behind it. Then tried some more complicated tools, which I still use now, which is basically Bubble, which I guess is one of or maybe the most powerful, most flexible no-code tool. And then I don't know, I built a lot of stuff. A lot of things I just built and then threw away because it was just a way of learning it. That's also what I would recommend if somebody's serious about learning how to build with no code. Just get like a project you're passionate about or what you're kind of seriously trying to implement, and just learn with that in mind or on that project. I also started at the beginning with courses. I think I did something on Udemy. And yeah, since then, now I have several products that I'm building. I'm just super bad with sales and marketing. That's why I'm a bit stuck in. I'm basically like this doctor that is smoking and drinking and telling the patients how to do things and how to get healthy, because I always tell my consulting clients what is the best process of building products. And basically it's the opposite of what I'm doing for myself, which is like I just build because it's fun, and then I'm not focusing on the sales part, the marketing part, the validation part, because it's just my outlet and my hobby. But I always have to keep reminding myself that that's not the proper process of building products.
Yeah, there's a lot to this, and I think if you're really somebody that never tried coding at all, it is possible, from what you had told me, to learn. But what you mentioned with Udemy, if somebody had no knowledge at all and they want to do no code, would you recommend a course first, or would you recommend like finding a YouTube video where you're just kind of shadowing someone making a project that they already have in mind?
I think so. What I did, I actually started first with Bubble and then I gave up on it because I thought it's too complex. So I moved to Glide, which is maybe one of the simpler tools or one of the simplest tools. So I think I would pick a very simple tool, which of course doesn't give you that much flexibility, but it's very easy to get started. And yeah, what I did, I think I went on YouTube. That was the first one, and I just there are many courses or many videos that are maybe 3 hours where somebody's copying a known app or software. Like what I said, I basically got a video which was copying Tinder, and just went with that and tried to adjust it a bit. So definitely, yeah, even free resources like on YouTube, there are many walkthroughs how to build something with different no-code tools. Maybe pick a simple one, and then if you feel like you still like it or it's getting boring, or now you have a product idea but it doesn't work with this tool, then you switch to the next one. And there's so many to pick. So yeah, but it's like I think I also described it in my presentation. For me, it's like stair stepping. You can start with a simple tool, then you get to the next one, and then you're also kind of, now if you get to Bubble and you work with connecting maybe ChatGPT and working with APIs and webhooks and these things that 3 years ago I wouldn't know what it is, and now I can build with that stuff. So it's a good way. You're halfway to actually understanding developers and understanding software development. And then even if you want to, maybe you can even, it's much easier to learn how to code and to build with code. But you don't have to, because the tools get more and more powerful and you can almost build everything you want already with no code.
Yeah, when I looked at no code, it reminded me of a bit of WordPress. It's kind of like dragging and dropping instead of writing in a coding language, if people are trying to understand how this is going to work before they go to that YouTube video. And you have these plugins, these things that are specifically going to help you do a certain thing in the code without you having to write the language. So that was fascinating to me. And I felt like you said stair stepping, but to me, like this is like building with Legos. Like you get the little blocks that are already together, and you just are going to decide how you're going to build that to get what you want for your product.
Right, yeah. And like you said, WordPress is a good example. I think there are many tools that exist for maybe 15 years, but nobody would say, at that time, nobody said that's no code. It was just like, landing page builder. But now there's this umbrella of no code. But yeah, WordPress would be a no code tool. Like Shopify, if you set up an e-commerce store, building something with Shopify. Then you're building this e-commerce store without code. So basically it's, yeah, Shopify is a no-code tool. So yeah, there are many different things and for all kinds of purposes.
Okay, if you're getting started with this, you've mentioned Glide and Bubble. Are these services free, or about how much would you pay if you want to start using these as a service?
Yeah, so mostly you can get started playing around with that for free. So most of them have a free plan, and you can even you can build whatever you want with it. You can have like a test version up and running, but normally as soon as you want to connect it to your own domain, or maybe like certain features you won't be able to use. But what I always do, I just build on the free plan till it's ready to be launched, and then just at the end when I connect the domain and really get the first real users, then I switch to a paid plan, which mostly it depends on the tool. I would say the simpler the tool, the more expensive the plans are. That's like a, I don't know, rule of thumb, but most of the tools I think you can get started with, yeah, $25-$30 a month. And then of course it scales from there. So if you would have, I don't know, on Bubble, I guess they have a different model. Like some of the tools they charge you by user count, like per seat. Basically, Glide is doing that now. They changed their pricing. Bubble is charging based on operations. So it doesn't matter how many users you have, but for example, if you have like heavy operations in the background, it will be more expensive than if you just have an app that people use to, I don't know, check photos or like some simple tasks. So that's also very important that if you're serious about implementing a product idea, to check not just the tool but also the pricing model, because there are certain tools that are where it's obvious from the pricing model that they're just targeting internal, like usage for internal tools, for example. And it wouldn't scale if you would really make it a SaaS product, for example. Then they're more expensive but I would say, like, for sure you get started for free. Do that first. You don't have to pay right away. And then yeah, some automation tools, maybe we talk about that later also, but Make and Zapier, I think the plans start from $10, quite cheap. But yeah, it's not, of course, if you compare it to code is by itself for free. But then if you compare it with, for example, if I want to implement my idea, I would have to hire someone if there wouldn't be no code. So then instead of paying $30 a month, maybe that's, depending on where you hire those people, $1,000 or $5,000 a month. I don't know. And that's also not helping. We tried that as well, because then you have all this issues of you having to explain to that person what you mean, what you want to build, how it should look like. So doing it yourself is also just the creative process of you build it, you see how it works, then new ideas pop up. So everything is in your hands. You know, the design, it's just like ideas coming, you test it, you get more ideas. So it's also a great process to have everything in one head, basically.
Yeah, I think if you're a big Canva user or you have a background in or an interest in graphic design, it's also interesting because you can use these no-code tools to easily build the look of a landing page or a website within the tool. So yeah, I found it really interesting for someone like me and like you were, with somebody with no coding experience. And you really do
Yeah,
start to make that connection as to how it works, even if you're not able to write in that language.
exactly. Yeah.
So if you made a code, I know you've mentioned you're not good at sales and marketing, but could you theoretically make a product and get it to the finish line with, let's say, Bubble? What if I wanted to take this finished product and then sell it to help fund my digital nomad journey? Is that possible, or do I need to keep using or paying for Bubble every month? I'm not sure how I would get it off of Bubble into the hands of the buyer.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, maybe that's two questions. So the first thing is you can monetize it. You can sell a product, like you could do it with code, or if it's based on code. I even heard, so there are some marketplaces for that, like I think Acquire or Flipper, or there are many more, where you can sell software products. And I heard it's even easier and you get a better multiple because you have a different buyer group, right? So even someone that, again, if someone can't code, it's very hard to buy a product based on code, because then again, you take it over, you have to understand the code, right? Which you cannot. So you have to hire someone, or you have to find I don't know, a co-founder to take over that product. But if I sell a no-code tool, anyone can buy it, and maybe, you know, I will include like a 1 week crash course, or like a bit of support, that it's very easy for the buyer to understand how to continue building with these tools, or updating it, or whatever they want to do. So I heard, I can't validate yet because I didn't sell anything yet on these platforms, but I heard it's even better if your product is built with no code. And the second part, and that's a bit of the downside, and maybe then we have to talk about some other terms like low code, but the problem with most of the, most or maybe all of the no code tools is that you're locked in their platform. So you cannot export the code. So of course, in the background, somehow they are generating code, so to produce that piece of software, but they won't give it to you because they want you to stay there and they want you to keep paying. So of course, that's something you have to be aware of. And then there are some tools, and then you would use the term low code, where that's something, for example, like Flutterflow, where you can, it's also like a no-code builder. So you have like a visual interface, drag and drop, like, you know, what you mentioned, WordPress, basically. But you could also add code, and you can also export the code that you produced building with the no-code editor. And you could just pull that out and transfer it to a, let's say, normal code project. So that's quite convenient, but then the trade-off is that it's a bit more complicated to learn and to use. So that's the trade-off. No code, very easy to learn, very easy to build with. You'll be much faster. But at the end, you have to think a bit ahead. What happens if this becomes a success? Of course, you can still copy it in code and say, okay, if it's such a big problem, then maybe if you know that this is a successful product and you have a lot of customers, maybe it's worthwhile to then hire like a bunch of developers and just copy it in on a code base. If for some reason that's important, but if not, you're kind of locked in. So you have to think about that beforehand.
Okay, I wonder if you could just transfer your account if you're like, we're thinking that far ahead, like, oh, I'm gonna give this account now to
Sure.
this person. That
You
you
can do that,
start
definitely.
paying, your monthly fee.
Right.
And
Yeah. That's actually quite, some of these tools have agency accounts. So specifically for that use case, that, for example, you build a lot of different products for different clients, and then there's like a built-in handover process. And some of them even have, like, their whole pricing model is built on that the agencies don't pay, but as soon as they transfer the project or the product to their clients, then they start charging them, because then they're locked in. So it's definitely that's happening a lot. This kind of handover that you're describing, that's
yeah,
possible.
sounds like they've set it up that way, so somebody's gonna be locked in. But I mean, the ideas and the skills that you've learned along the way to make that product are also very valuable. And that brings me to another question. Do you know anything about the market for no coders? Now that you have this experience, do you think you could no code for other people and make that part of your digital nomad income?
I think I could, yeah. So currently it's not my priority. But yeah, I mean, I can build products for myself, and I think they work quite well. So I could do that for someone else. And in general, there's a market for that. I think globally it's very like there's a huge difference on the kind of market. So I was attending a conference on no code end of last year, and there was this graph showing that the adoption rate of no code in corporates, and there was the comparison of Germany and the US, for example, and it said for the US 40% of companies use already no code tools, and for Germany that was 2%. So
Wow.
if you're in Germany, then, and I know that because again I'm from Germany, and I have German clients, and it's very hard to convince them to do something new, right? And then, of course, you have much more questions in Germany compared to other parts of the world about compliance and like GDPR and all these kind of things, which sometimes are myths. And there's a lot of like problems there that are not really problems. But yeah, it really depends on the market. So you would have to check which countries are actually adopting no code and in what way. And I think at the moment it's much easier to go into automation. It's also something you can, I would say, like there are different parts of like main parts of no code, which is of course like applications, the front end, basically what you see as a user. Then automation, which is all the flows in the background, and then you have databases, and there are different tools covering all of these parts. Sometimes all three of them. Sometimes they focus on one of them. But I think automation is the easiest to start with because that's something that companies understand, especially maybe now if there's like, a bit of a downturn economically. So if you tell them maybe this process that costs you $1 million a month can now I can do this for $10,000 a month, that's something they understand. If I say now that why don't we build a prototype or an MVP or like some add-ons to the existing product with no code, then I don't know, maybe they already have a team of developers that they want to use anyway, or they don't really understand what you want. So I think it's still a bit of convincing or like needs some convincing or needs some education on how it can best be used for corporates, especially. And I'm a bit biased because I'm mostly working for corporates. But if you look at small companies or medium-sized companies, I think it's much more obvious to use that technology. Or if you think of small, like say you have a cafe or you have I don't know, like a small store. I mean, long time already, it's easy basically to build your own landing page, or you can build a shop, but maybe you can, I don't know, automate some of your processes, like newsletters or email, like orders coming per email or phone. You can plug in AI tools. That's something that's accessible now. And there's a market. I saw some job offers for no-code developers that can basically earn the same like normal, let's say, normal developers or conventional developers. And then again, you can be a freelancer. Maybe you can build your agency and build products with no code for others. There are a lot of training courses now, or generally courses where people teach other people how to build with no code. So I would say the same options that you have with code, you can that will happen more and more for no code. And I'm hoping, and I'm also thinking that the demand for this technology and building things with no code, or people that can build with no code, will grow faster than people will get into no code. So I think it's definitely a nice field, and it's also closely related, of course, with all the Gen AI developments. And it makes it very easy also to build on top of Gen AI. It's basically, we did that. I did it with a friend of mine last year in Bansko. We did a workshop where we showed basically how you can build like a travel planner based on top of ChatGPT within half an hour. So also creating with AI or on top of AI is very easy with no code. So
really exciting. And for people that never thought they had a chance to enter this world involving any kind of code, now they have a chance. And I think for digital nomads, it's a good, if you're into this, if you like Legos, if you spend a lot of time with Legos or WordPress, things like this in the past, maybe this is something new you'd like to build or create, and it could provide an income for you as a digital nomad if you're interested in that. And the product side, we don't even have, we don't have any time to talk about how to sell it. but it's also a possibility. So thank you, Oliver, for sharing all of this. I know it's a lot when you've never heard of no code to first think about. I did want to ask as a final question to you, like, how long did it take you before you felt proficient in no code when you started?
I think always and never. Like you always think now you got it, now you know how to do it, and then you realize, there is this other topic that I don't know anything about yet. But I would say, like what I said, it depends on the tool also. I think Glide, which is very simple. I think after a few days, I thought, okay, now I know everything. Now I can move on. And then Bubble, I think people would say, oh, that's also my experience. Maybe you need, I would say maybe 3 months, not full time, but maybe like a few half days a week that you really sit there and build something. And maybe after 3 months, you will feel like I can build some stuff. Not everything, maybe, but you will feel good about your abilities. But now I'm 2 years in, and there are still so many things where I see like, oh, I never thought of that, and that's something I cannot do yet. But then it becomes increasingly easy to, to get those skills also. To just, there's always YouTube, there's Google, there's ChatGPT, which is surprisingly good in answering very specific questions about the tools. So sometimes I would just ask, how do I do this and this and this in Bubble, and then he can like that. It produces quite like a lot of good answers. There's forums, very active community around these tools mostly. And if all of that doesn't help, there are some platforms where you can book someone for like an hour, and that person is checking your editor and can help you out. So you never have to be stuck. If you're interested and you really want to learn, there's so many resources and so many ways to solve things. So I never had really a situation where I could just not fix it. So it was always possible to fix it eventually.
That's really great to hear about all these resources. So, you can just keep going if you put the time in. And hey, a couple of days in Glide does not sound bad to me. So if this is interesting you, we are going to put the tools in the description, and you can start, I think, as you said, start with Glide and then move on to Bubble and all the other things that are out there that if you start to get your curiosity sparked, you can move to those as well. So is there anything else you would like to share with us before you go, Oliver?
Just do it. I mean, I think especially in the digital nomad community, we love to be independent. We are creative. We like to explore things, and I think it fits very well in the lifestyle of maybe you want to have a side hustle, maybe you just want to automate your business more so that you can spend more time traveling or exploring or just living your life. So I think it's a great match between this community and the no code community. So yeah, definitely have a look and don't be discouraged if at the beginning it looks a bit confusing and complicated, but if I can do it, then you can also do it. I was not a developer, now I feel like one. So yeah, just go ahead and get started.
Awesome. I was right there with you. I was always jealous of the coders that were having this great life in Bali. And I was like, I have to
Right.
think of these different jobs to have, because I also know they were paid better compared to me. But this no code maybe can also pay pretty well once you get skilled at it. So this is encouraging to those of us out there who always thought about
Should do
it.
it.
Yeah. Well, if people want to follow you, where can they go?
I think best is either on LinkedIn. So just search for my name, Oliver Neu. There are a few of us, but you will find me. I'm the guy without the hair. My profile photo is a bit like I look sideways because I don't know
Okay.
better.
Look for that, guys.
And then I have a fresh Instagram account where I didn't start posting it, but I will for sure. Which is Nomad No Code, which is I think quite catchy. And yeah, you can connect there with me. And definitely don't feel shy to just write me on LinkedIn or Instagram if you have any questions. If you want to, I don't know. So far, I didn't get started with any courses or building things for someone else. But if you think I should do that, or maybe you want to be part of it, then please drop me a text. Or if you have any questions or ideas. Or I'm very happy to connect with all of you and talk about it. So do that.
Thank you so much, Oliver. I hope those of you that have now become interested in no code will contact Oliver. Have a wonderful day and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.